All right, so last class we started with making our spoons using the form environment. We used two different objects, a sphere chopped in half and modified, and then a plane reshaped, modified, and then we bridged those together to make one piece. But from there, then you had to use the thicken tool to actually add dimension because it ended up as a surface. This is one simple way of working, and again, you do not have to build these parts this way. You could model the whole thing in one piece if you want, move along. But what I wanted to do is build on that and with the whole idea of kitchen utensils. Now, again, whatever you want to pretend is a kitchen utensil, more power to you. You want to you know, butter bread with a battle axe or a chainsaw, cool. Whatever you want to try to model. But I wanted to show you some different examples of things like a simple kitchen knife with like this modeled handle and a kind of a simple, although somewhat stumpy, just like kitchen spatula. So just some simple tools, using simple models, using the same tools we're using and how to modify them. So to go about with these, I'm going to go ahead and start a new sketch or start a new component so they're nested inside of here. Um, excuse me. And again, your models need to be on their own components. So, all right. Kitchen knife. Didn't mean to activate that. Go ahead and start another one just so it's there. And spatula. Cool. Just so we have some starting points. So these are the models I did before. Let's go ahead and start with the kitchen knife. So I'm going to activate the component that I built for that. Again, you do not have to start from images. You can if you want, whatever makes sense. Again, if you want to follow along with this, please do. I'm going to start by entering the form environment. And I'm going to build my kitchen knife using a plane. Now, whereas before, in building a plane, we started with a center point and worked outward. But that's because we're working from the top down and the piece was going to spread wider. The knife, like you saw, is more of on its side. So I'm going to treat it slightly differently. So when you're modeling with the plane environment, one, just like the others, you have to pick a plane that you're working from. So I'm going to work on the XZ plane, the flat plane there. And you have your toolbox. Now you have two select options to start from. You have a center point rectangle, which is what we use to make the spoon handle, just like a center point rectangle in sketch environment. But for this, I'm going to use a 2-point plane because I want to start at a point and end elsewhere rather than starting in the center and moving out evenly. So that's all. That's just my preference. I'm going to snap to the top because it's easier for me to work. I do not have to start right in the middle, but I would recommend starting and building based off of one of the major axes. So I'm building off of the y-axis, the green one. All right, 600 millimeter or 500 millimeter kitchen knife is pretty long. We're starting to get into short sword territory, so let's shrink it way back. Something slightly more reasonable-ish. Well, let's put it this way. Those print beds are 200 millimeters long, or 220, so let's make it 200. Whoops-a-daisy, wrong one. 200 by, I don't know, let's say 60. Now, do not hit enter or it will finish. Just simply click your mouse. That changes the toolbox, frustratingly, to the full set. I wish it would just make it as it was. Anyway, like we said, start simply and add complexity later, but in this case, I do want to add some complexity. So you can either use the sliders, click and drag, and add faces one way or the other. Same here. Don't go too crazy with it yet. I think I'm going to put something like 3 and 4 faces. For symmetry, I'm not going to use symmetry at all because I'm actually going to make this, instead of looking straight down, I'm making it on its side. So sounds good to me. I'll hit OK. From here, just a simple block. I'm going to try to reshape it into what I expect a kitchen knife to look like. Now, you could make it whatever you want. You want to make it like I did, like I showed before, like this kind of like a French chef knife? Cool. You want to make it more like a cleaver? Whatever. Obviously, it's your knife. Go nuts. So I'm going to use the form edit tool, or edit form rather, to manipulate this. And I'm going to start by, since I got it here, I'm going to start and make the tang, the handle. If you're familiar with standard knife making procedures, the tang is the part that goes down into the handle. It's the extension of the blade of the metal. Anyway, I'm going to use by selecting by edge. And instead of double clicking and selecting the whole edge, I just went 1 and let's make it 1 and a 2. Now, if I just click and drag the arrow, I'll be dragging the whole thing. I don't want that in this case. I'm going to press and hold Alt on my keyboard, which is the part that it lets me extrude. Now, when I drag, you see it creates in a whole nother section. That is what I want. I want to create that additional extrusion there. So if you click and drag just normally using the arrow keys, it's going to actually move the plane. If you press and hold Alt on your keyboard and then drag, that will be an extrude built onto the form. So that works really nicely. All right, cool. That's something, something. Maybe make it bigger. I don't know, whatever. Yeah, that warps quite a lot, but I'm going to add a crease in that later. From here, well, let's see here. Let me go ahead and, in this case, I think I will double click here. And instead of just dragging straight over, which does work, I'm going to rotate that. And you can see how quickly I'm going to start to get a knife edge. Sure, that works. Apparently I'm making more like a Tonto blade, but whatever. It's your kitchen knife. Instantly starts to resemble a not great knife, but something of a kitchen knife. All right. Think now I'm going to switch to by vertex, and I'm going to give myself a little more control. Select those two, drag upward, shrink the tang a little bit. You see where I'm going. I'm just going to kind of play around with this, moving stuff left and right. Now, don't worry about the fact that that's not really moving quite how I want. I do not want that big, crazy cutback, but it's not a big deal if it does. Now, if you want this to be an even curve, what do we talk about when we're making this? Is all fit point spline modeling. This is all modeling with just rather than before fit point spline when we're sketching point to point to point, you can make a more complex curve. Fewer points gets a smoother curve. This is making entire bodies doing that. So I'm going to hit OK. And what I'm actually going to do is go in here. I'm going to select this vertex just like we did for the spoon. I deleted half the faces of the bowl of the sphere to make the bowl. I'm just going to delete this vertex. Instantly makes it more rounded. Now, obviously, I'm going to get some weird results out of this, and I could probably dial this back, stuff like that. But once I start deleting vertices, that allows the spline to smooth out more effectively. So yeah, that kind of sort of works. It's not great, but it works. We can tweak other things. There are certainly like straighten lines, things like that. Like right here, I don't like how tweaked that is. So I'm going to try and straighten that out if it'll even let me. Let's see here. These don't always work how I want it to. All right, it's not letting me work. Whatever. Okay, that's all right. We can always mess with this stuff later. Anyhow, that's about where I wanted to get to. That's kind of sort of kitchen knifey. Obviously, you make it however you want. You want to keep playing with it? Great. You're going to grab the point there, make it like a big old, like, I don't know. You want to make this a short sword, scimitar? Great. You cut butter, you cut bread with a scimitar. Awesome. Whatever you want to do. I'm just making a profile shape. All right? Cool. Now, I need to add thickness to this because right now, this is simply a flat plane. I need to add dimension to it. So I'm going to go to the Thicken tool, select here. Sharp is the direction I want. I don't want a soft knife. I'm not making a butter knife here. Direction, leave it as normal. Thickness, I don't know, sure, like 3 millimeters. Hit OK. It's under modify. Modify and thicken. It should be at the top of your bar. That looks like it kind of looks like the sponge. And hit OK. Now I use the sharp edge because, well, I want a square edge. Good, good, good. Now, obviously, some of this stuff is going to get weird, and we'll deal with that as we go. Probably, I can pretty much guarantee this line here is going to give me problems. So in all reality, if you want to make this like this wider end like this, I'm just going to Control Z a little bit, or actually, no, we don't have to go all the way back. While you're doing that, I'm just going to adjust that point and just move it more in line a little bit. So all I did is just made it so the faces kind of flow a little bit more effectively. That's it. All right. So I'm looking at this, basically just the metal knife from the edge. Cool. However, I want one edge to be sharp. So what we can do is I can go through and actually work on just simply deleting these faces. So I'm going to go along Press and hold shift as I go to select multiple faces. Delete all these leading edge faces, or sorry, select them all, and then just hit delete. So now I have essentially this open shape. So you can see on the back side, still closed. On the front, it's like two sides of a sheet of paper just floating in half. Cool. Pause there and see what y'all are looking at. All right, so what we're going to do, because I opened that up, that's hollow, I want to actually bring those together. Last time we used bridge to actually like build a span between. I don't want to build anything between. I want to actually like join them, fuse them, or weld them. So to modify and weld vertices, pretty straightforward. So rather than adding faces between, I'm going to bring those points together. So go to weld vertices. On your toolbox, you have two options. You have your selections, and then you have the weld mode. Switch your weld mode from vertex to vertex, which is point to point, and instead switch to midpoint. Vertex to vertex means first thing you select will move. Second thing you select is where to move to. Vertex to midpoint means you select both of them, and they join in the middle. So then we're just going to go down the way. So first one, 1, 2, doesn't matter the order, joins together. 1, 2. Now you're going to get some weird shifts. That's okay. We will go back and rework some of this stuff. So just work your way down the edge of the blade. You can select the keep creases, and it will keep them sharp. Problem is if you don't do that right at the get-go, you can see how the one side is sharp. Where I finally selected it, it does not retroactively adjust things. So if you wanted the edges to be sharp, let's just Control Z all of that, open it all back up. And now redo it with the keep creases check box, or check box checked. There we are. And redo it. Now that edge will stay sharp. Little tedious, but it works quite well. Now we will end up with some weird stuff happening right here, but we'll deal with that in a moment. Hit OK. All right, there we go. Now I've got my kind of sort of edge. Again, this is not a fine-tuned sculpting environment, but we can get pretty close to what we want. Cool. Welded all the vertices. Now, before we move on, you will definitely end up with some weird results because see how this face here is curved inward? That ends up being kind of a pain in the ass. So what we're going to do is I'm going to delete those faces. So select both of those because it's got a weird curve. Delete it. And then I'm going to close it up again with new information. So I deleted those faces because it was getting a weird curve. Now I'm going to go down to fill hole. Double click on the edge. Ew, not that. Want keep creases. Let's go try reduce star, collapse. Nope. Reduce star. I don't like any of those. All right. Well, might just have to instead fix it differently. Let's try that. Well, let's try bridge. That side to that side. Will that work? Nope. That's not going to give me the option I want. All right. Well, I might just have to untangle that a little bit. So let's Control Z that. So rather than this whole thing, let me try just deleting just this front edge. That did something differently for sure, but that did something weird to this point over here. Don't like that. So I'm going to have to adjust that. Remember when you try to adjust things, we're using the edit form tool? Dang it. Make sure that you use a selection box. So I'm selecting all the things inside. Don't just use a selection point. By selecting it immediately, you will very easily accidentally only select one thing and not the other. So what's happening here is they're kind of all joined and it's kind of tangled. Let me just grab one point and you can see more clearly what's happening. I've got this weird intersection happening. And this is what happens when you sometimes get the wrong thing going. So let's see here. So you got that patch there, that line there. Maybe what I can do, edit form, line. Let me try shrinking that. Not quite what I want, but that did untangle the curve. So maybe that'll work. And instead, I know this is kind of an irritating workaround, but this is the whole point was I was trying to untangle that face. And now I should be able to move it back, which seems like, well, aren't I just putting it right back where it was? No, because, well, that one I shouldn't have done. But instead of by point here, I should be able to move it by face or by edge, sorry. And as long as I don't push it too far, it won't self-intersect again. Okay. Now that's still a hole, but now I'll be able to use the fill hole edge, keep creases. There we go. Really irritating workaround, but it worked. So there we go. Main thing there is I'm just trying to keep the creases, and it should keep working for me. All right, now I got my weird old scimitar butter knife. Okay, cool. I'm going to save that. And now what I want is to add a handle to it. That I can do with a whole nother body. I'm going to use a rectangle or the box tool. I'm going to select from the front. I don't know why it rotated that way. And instead of going by center, again, I'm going to use a 2-point. And I'll start just somewhere over here. Da-da-da, something to that effect. Sure. Okay. Now I get a weird result and I'm going the wrong way. So let's try to do a symmetric opening. And I do want symmetry on, mirror, height. Good. That's keeping the mirror. See the green line? That's my mirror line. Top will be mirrored from the bottom. And now I'm just going to kind of get the knife handle close-ish to size. Size is what we want, a little bit close enough to size. All right, cool. That'll pretty much work. I think that'll be decent enough. Obviously, I'm going to alter this, but that'll work for now. I just made just a weird shape. All right. So from here, again, now I can use the edit form, and now we can change stuff around. Oh, let's see here. Well, for one, I want this edge to be sharper, so before I edit form, I'm going to use crease. That literally just makes a crease. And crease works by just selecting planes, or edges, I'm sorry. So you can see how it's working around there. There we go. Now I've got one side is round, the other side is square, flat. Cool. It's just creasing that edge. Okay, cool. Now, if I want to add like I did before, the kind of like grip lines, I can keep playing around with edit form, however it seems right. Click there, I don't know, drag that out, yada, 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 whatever. It's up to you. But I want to add grips. I want to add detail. I want to add complexity. So, like I said, make this simple first, then add complexity. So I have these lines here, and what I want to do is called insert edge. The other tool, it just literally adds edge lines. So I'm going to select that one, and I want it to go around the front. I don't want to double click, because if I double click, it'll go all the way around. Don't want that. So I just want just the front two, and because symmetry is on, it will apply it to the other side as well. On your options here, you can apply to one side or both. That is what I want. I'm trying to add complexity now. How this operates, you see this insert location. It goes from 0 to 1, 0 being the line it started at, and 1 being the next closest line. You can see how it distorts from there. 0.5 obviously is right in the middle. Okay. And let me orbit around, you'll see. Did it at the bottom also. Cool. I want to do that again. Insert edge, right there. Okay. One more time. Now, couldn't I have started this with far more edge lines, 4 more faces? Yeah, totally. But this way, adding them afterwards lets you much more easily shape the whole thing, then add detail as you need. Now that I have that, now I can go to edit form again. I'm going to select by edge, and Let's see here. Yeah, let me just double click all of these. Every other one. And now, think I'll use the scale tool. Let's try that. So in order around, remember the scale, uniform scale is the center point, and then I have single form or single direction. This curve one is two directional scale, so it'll shrink both top and bottom and left to right. Yep. That's probably a little bit too much. So maybe I just need to shrink it that way. That works pretty well. Yep, some of my little blade tang is exposed, but that's all right. But the whole point here is because I have lines between each other, I have something to bend against. Remember, that's how fit point splines work. Only a couple of points, well, 2 points, it's a straight line. 3 points, and you get a smooth curve. You start adding more points closer to one another, you have something to bend against. Same thing's happening here. I have multiple lines, one that I'm shrinking, one that I'm not, one that I'm shrinking, one that I'm not, so on and so forth. The more times you do that, the more complexity you can get. Cool, there we go. So obviously, I kind of need to fix that knife edge in there. So let me hide the handle here, and I'm going to go ahead and just adjust that line. Oops, I don't have symmetry on, so I better make sure I get both of these. Let's just shrink that back a wee bit. Hit OK. Now it is not exposed inside my handle. Cool. Now, a little tweak here, and I'll be able to adjust my knife blade up and down. Where's my... there we go. Close enough. It's not smack in the middle. Looks like I need to do it like -1.5. Oops. What is going on here? There we go. I tried to get it just in the middle there. Just a minor adjustment. Okay. Now the last step here is going to be finish form. Now we'll see if I have any errors that I have to fix. Ah, poop. Yep. So if you get errors, all right, well, let's address this. What it's saying is when I shrink that blade handle back, I probably had it overlap something. So let's return, hide the body, and let's see. Let's see if we can fix this. First, I'm going to try auto repair. And that is under utilities and repair body. Select the spline, little box here, auto repair. See if it fixes anything for me. No. But it was showing me what the issue was here. Check conversion. Yep, it is this, and it looks like, what is going on here? I am not sure. Ah, there it is. Zooming in on the back, look what happened there. As I shrank that in, it folded in on itself. So now this edge, this line, is past where it needs to be, where it can be. So I should be able to just fix probably this back edge, and I'll see if that works. Let's try that. Edit form by edge. Let's try. Well, let's try by face. All right. Not sure how that shrank in on itself, but it did. So maybe I'll even rotate it a wee bit. All right. That, well, crud, shouldn't have rotated because now I did the same thing to the other side. Fine. Don't rotate it. Just move it a tiny bit. Now a little bit it is. Okay, let's try that now. Still an error. What the heck? Problem is, it's not overly detailed of where the error is. So let's try switching to one of the other ways you can more easily see what an error might be. Switching display modes. I can select the body. Right now it's all rounded. Technically it's not because I'm making like an angled blade, but whatever. Switching to box mode sometimes will let you see things more clearly. And in this case, it's not. It's probably, the error is probably still down in here. Not sure why, but the error is over here in the handle. So let's try that. Still giving me the error? Yep. All right, fine. Let's try deleting a face and see if it shows me what's going on here. Shouldn't have to do this much face deletion. It's just giving me some errors. So I think it looks like the error is still back here in the back. So let me Control Z, put that back, edit form, edge. Let's just drag that edge out a tiny bit. No, no. The joy of working with this. Let's try -1 degree. Just trying to shrink, just trying to tweak this just a tiny bit. All right, let's try that. Oh my God, still where? Ah, right there in the corner. Always in the corner, of course. Okay, maybe the auto repair will work this time. That's not repaired at all. That's so much worse. Awesome. I'll help you in a minute. All right. So, like I said, this should not be this complex. I just ran into some errors because I'm trying to make extra details on this. So let's try just untangling this one last time, hopefully. Just trying to get those 2 points. I shouldn't have to drag this so far out. Let's try it now. Oh, good God. Ah, okay. Wasn't obvious, but now as I zoom way in, you can see some weird interaction here, and it's creating this strange point. Repair might be able to work now because I've kind of untangled things, but no. All right, well, I'm going to pause here and I'm going to try to fix this rather than you watching me try to fiddle with this. Got it. So unfortunately, because the way the faces were all finagled, it was overlapping there in the corner because this strange situation here. So sometimes the best solution is if it keeps overlapping no matter what I did is I just deleted this face. It reshapes, resizes, and this time I was able to then go in, fill hole, and now errors removed. Hot dang. You delete enough things and fix it and glue it back together, it works. Okay, great. We're finally out of that. Should not have been that complex. But great, we got to here. Let's throw some appearances on and make it look the part. Sure, rich mahogany handle, and why not a palladium knife? Because reasons. Last steps on this would be, you know what? Let's throw a little bit of detail on. What do most knife handles have? Some kind of a pin to hold it in place. So let's do a sketch right on there. Rotates again. Want it over here. Let me hide that knife handle. Should label this. I don't know, something right about there. Good enough? Good enough. 10 millimeter pin, kind of crazy. Fine. Finish sketch. All I'm doing with that, using that sketch to then cut through everything, cut a hole straight out. Now I got a hole through the handle and the blade part. And now I can just simply do one more extrusion of that sketch. And let's make sure it goes both sides symmetrically. Drag it on out. Whoa, getting a weird result there because something's getting applied wrong. Yeah, it sticks out a little bit. I do not want to join. I want a new body. There we go. Put a little fillet on the ends of that just because reasons. And we'll put like a 1 millimeter fillet. Nice. And sure, we'll throw an appearance on that too because it is. Gold. Gold pin. Bam. All right. Should not have had to deal with that many errors, but sometimes you run into them. There you go. Now, technically, no, this is not complete, but we're going to call it good enough for now. As in, what I would ideally like to do, and this is pretty easy to do, is just do a combined cut on the handle. So, handle, I'm going to use the blade as a cutting tool. I'm going to keep everything. I don't need a new component. Hit OK. It looks like no change. What did change is now my blade I used as a cutting tool in the handle so that when I hide the blade, it just made a hole in the handle. Not really a necessary step for what we're doing, but hey, if you want to nitpick, there you go. All right. Way more steps than it should have been. Knife finally done. Super. Let's pause for a second and make a spatula. So next up, let's make a little simple spatula. Let me hide that. Activate the spatula component. Again, you can make this however you want. I'm going to enter the form environment. I'm going to make it with a plane again, working right on the flat plane. This time I am going to use a center point rectangle and just decide which way you're going. Is it front, side? Sure. All right. So super simple spatula. I'm just making something that's kind of right on. Nope, I don't like where that, I don't think I actually got that centered. Why is it doing that? Center point. Yeah. Yeah. There we go. Just looks, that doesn't look even. Because it's not. What the heck is going on here? Why is that not even?
Oh, I think it just didn't look it because of the arrow. The arrow looked like the other side.
Does, but at the same time, all right, so plane, center point plane, smack in the middle. Oh, I'm looking at the arrow, not the edges. I'm reading it wrong. Yeah, that's about right. No, it's perfectly fine. I'm just dumb. Okay. Let's make this like an even square, 100 by 100. Okay. Now let's kind of divide this up a little bit, make it a little bit easier to work with. I'm going to divide this into thirds and half because one of these sides I'm going to extrude out to make my handle. Simple. Now the problem is symmetry can't really get applied evenly very well because it's asymmetric. So what I probably need to do is go ahead and make it four-sided or four-face, and I can apply length symmetry, and I can just do it with two sides. I'll show you what I mean. Okay, I've got a painfully basic form here. Reason for that, I'm going to make a painfully basic spatula. Let's go to edit form. I'm going to use by edge. I'm going to double click this one here, and I'm just going to rotate that. You can see how it's going to start to become like a scraper here. Okay, good enough. I'm not going to double click the whole thing. I want this edge, shift and hold this edge. Now I'm going to press and hold Alt again because I want to extrude this. Drag straight out. And that's pretty much what I want to do. All there is to that. Obviously, a little bit of weirdness here. Might double click that, drag that back. Ooh, getting some real funky results. Might end up with it right where I was before. But that's about what we do. Other thing could simply be, we could also start with a box and extrude it wider, whatever. This is just a way to start. I'm not telling you this is the only way to start. From here, yeah, just do whatever you want. You want this to be a flat thing? Sure. You want it to be, you want to drag inward and outward, whatever. It's your piece. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to bend this upward to make my little spatula scraper. Modify crease. I'm just going to crease that line right there, and it snapped back over here. That's where I actually would ideally like it. Excellent. Hit OK. Now I'm going to go to edit form and by edge. Now if I drag this whole thing up, because that line over there is creased and I have no additional faces in here, the whole thing just angles upright. Again, I'm just making it easier for myself. If I had added extra faces in here, I would have had to move both of these at once. If I had, let's say just for the sake of showing you, if I had done that. So let's say I accidentally had two faces there. All right, no big deal. Same deal. Edit form. I would probably need to grab by like vertex or by face. Grab all of these. And the problem is if I just, oops, that's not at all what I wanted to do. If I rotate, see what it does there? Some chaos. But what I can do now, just drag the whole thing upward until it matches. And I'm just trying to get it eyeballed into place. If it's not absolutely flat, not a big deal. But all right, now it's just angled. Cool. That's really it. That's all I was trying to do. I could shrink this handle if I think it's a little bit too wide, shrink it down a little bit, whatever. Now I'm going to add the holes in this later, but first I want to add a handle again. How can I get a handle to match this? Two methods. You could make it flat on the flat plane and then just move the handle manually. The other option is, now form doesn't like to play it nice, but what I can do is I can try to make a construction plane at one of these edges. Let's try add an angle, plane at an angle. If I can grab one of these edges, I can't. So, all right, crud. None of those are not going to let me. Let's try tangent plane. Nothing selecting. Crud. Because the thing about planes is in the form workspace, even though it's there, there's nothing really that I can work with. But it's not letting me select these to build off of it like a construction plane, even though these are all selectable things. But what I can try is just like we've done before, is doing like projections. Let's try that. Sketch, silhouette of this, project that plane, hit OK. So now when I go to hide that, I have an outline. That's a straight line I can now play with. So get out of the way. Now let's try to do, let's say the plane at an angle. Now I do have that line. And it's perpendicular to what I want, so just turn that like 90 degrees. Cool. Now it's flat with that handle. Now, the reason I would do all of this is like, all right, that seems like way too many steps. But the whole thing there is if I go to move this, if I say, oh, crap, I don't want this handle where it is, let's select all of that stuff. That should follow. It doesn't. Ideally, it would follow, but because we're in the form workspace, it doesn't capture history. So, all right, we're kind of a little SOL. But we can always redefine stuff. So leave it there. It's easier to work with this way. Unfortunately, we don't capture history. So all we got to do now is do exactly what we just did for the knife. I'm going to make a center point rectangle on that plane. Ooh, right about there. And this is going to be a giant handle. So maybe I don't want it to go all the way. Yeah. Symmetry, mirror, it saves my stuffs. Cool. Good enough. Let's try to move this whole thing. See if it'll actually let me select it along the line. It will not. Crud. So, edit form, changing all this stuff around. I'm just trying to drag stuff along. Ideally, you'd want to put this smack where you want it to be in the first place, but yeah, there we go. Same deal. It really made no change. I just made kind of a chunky handle. Obviously, you can make details however you want. That is a unnecessarily chunky handle. But finished form, it kicked out. I forgot to thicken this. Oops. Just go back in, add thickness to the handle. Yep, same like you did before. Cool. Let me fix this handle real quick just to drag that upwards a little bit so it's a little less like hot dog handle here. Now, one of the things whoops. What was happening is it was selecting both things. Why is this? Oh, right. So because it have mirror on, I'm accidentally moving up and down. So it's actually shrinking and growing. Just be careful of that when you move stuff around. Cool. Now, one of the things about the form workspace, the reason I'm seeing like these ghost images, because there's no captured history down here, that's Fusion's attempt to at least give you something to reference. So like, oh, okay, I can see the ghost of what this box was. So now when you move stuff around, at least it lets you at least have some semblance of what you were doing. And there we go. I already thickened the spatula. Finished form. No errors this time. Hot dang. Last step I want to do is add my little fancy holes in this. So, sketch. There we go. You don't have to project. I just like doing that because it helps me align things. So, when I have like the spatula hidden, I still have this. Let's see here. Let's make a center point rectangle right in the center. Something, something, something. Close enough. Cool. Let's use the pattern tool. Oops, not circle pattern. Let's use the rectangle pattern to copy that. And I want it to go symmetrically. Make a couple. You want to make 5. You get the idea here. Whoop. All set. Unhide the body. And now we're right back to what we used to do. Sketch and extrude. All of those parts. If you have trouble getting at it, just hide the bodies temporarily. And then we just symmetrically extrude. The reason I'm doing symmetric just so it goes up and down the same way. Automatically cuts. Bam. Chop holes in it. So we're just doing the exact same thing there. So hopefully yours goes slightly less problematic than mine. We're doing the whole throw features on. Why is it doing it to both this time? There we go. There's my super simple spatula and apparently extremely problematic, but finally successful kitchen knife. So those are just a couple of different ideas. We can obviously grab stuff now that it's done, move it out of the way. So now we at least have space to show stuff. Yours do not have to match. Make whatever you want. They don't have this. This is not like a functional set. Again, it got a little complex, but definitely helps a lot if you go into this knowing, or at least have a fairly clear idea of what you want. Because if you don't, it can get really easy to get lost. And apparently, if you do, it can get easy to get lost too. So build it out, and I'll help you where I can.